Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 18th day of March, 2019. Well, today, numerologically, is a 9 energy, so we have then a 393 if we look at the third month, the 9 energy for today, and the 3 energy for the year. So that's kind of interesting. So 9 is about completion, humanitarian concerns, things like that. So maybe we'll be thinking about others today. Wednesday, of course, is the full moon. That should be fun. And I posted the third in the Queen series yesterday on the blog. I think it was yesterday, yeah. And that was about the Queen of Pentacles. So we took a look at that. And then today we'll go, I'll do the current lunar transits today. So that'll go up on the blog over at Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. So go and check that out if you're interested in that. Let's see. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We started basically digging out. There was, when you dig a pathway, you have to put the snow somewhere. So areas of my deck probably had, 3 feet of snow. And so we had to, we're not all the way done because I still have my pots out there. I always leave them out there during the winter that I grow all my little annuals and stuff. And then I also have some perennial herbs there too, but they're all, not all of them. Some of them are still covered in snow. And I didn't let my husband do that part. I'm going to do that myself because it's hard to tell where they are. And some of them are at varying heights, and I don't want him to get carried away with the shovel and damage any of them. So I'm going to finish doing that myself. I've done some of it, but not all of it. And my husband also enlarged the area in which I can back my car out and around so that I can then get out of the driveway. It was so narrow this time that I couldn't, he'd have to stand out there like an air traffic control person with lights and things to guide me so I could just get out of from underneath the carport. So he was out there alleviating some of that yesterday. So we got, and he was, every time I looked up, he was taking another wheelbarrow full of snow and dumping it. I actually have 4 ponds. 2 of them are really big. And in fact, we pump out of them. Well, one of them we pump out of. The other one just naturally feeds the other one. And so, but we have 2 really large ponds. You could call them irrigation ponds, but they're really not. They're for the fish and the ducks and the geese and whoever else comes by, the herons, the kingfishers, the predator birds, that are here, the raptor birds. That's really what it's for. We have catfish in there and goldfish that have basically turned back into carp. And so, it's just, and then there's bullfrogs, massive bullfrogs. And so, there's a lot of life out there and it's just wonderful, But I have one in the backyard that used to be where an above ground pool was. Pools around here, when you live around juniper trees, pools don't work because juniper trees shed everywhere. They drop crap everywhere. They're one of the messiest trees. And so, of course, we had it right underneath, well, because everywhere in our yard, there's juniper trees everywhere. So it just was always a mess. And so we finally just took it down, but there was this nice round circle where it was. And so my husband just started digging and put in another pond. And then I have a small one that's, you can buy those pond liner, those hard plastic pond things, that are actually formed to create a pond. And I made one here off the front deck. And so we have 4. So my husband has been dumping the snow he's been collecting in the one in the backyard. So it's melting now, of course. And so you can start to see the water forming. So that's kind of cool. Eventually there'll be ducks swimming in it. So the ducks are all back and they're out on the big pond right now swimming because it's not there's still a little bit of frozen area on it, but for the most part, it's not. And so they're having fun out there now. And I saw some geese fly over yesterday, and two that were kind of separate from the group. We usually had a pair that would sit on a dock on our pond. They didn't last year, though, because we put up a chicken coop, and also that's where we ended up having to put our DirecTV satellite dish. And so even though that's small and it's not really sitting on the dock, I have to wonder if maybe because there was enough change, they just didn't set there last year. They set somewhere else on the property, probably over by the other big pond, but they didn't set on the dock. So we didn't get to watch the babies being born or anything like that. We've been so blessed to be able to watch that. And they never stay for too long, but they stay a while, you know, and they move them from pond to pond. And then eventually they're just all gone. And so they must take them somewhere. I don't know where they go, but they take them somewhere. Or maybe the babies get taken. I don't know. But eventually they're gone, and you know, they don't come back until the following year. And so hopefully we'll see that. They lay all over the place here. You get geese pairs everywhere. We live in an area where it's both town and country. And so, you know, you have people with property, and if most of the time you have a pond, and because you know, they use it for their livestock, or they use it to irrigate out of or something. And so you're always going to have geese. So it's kind of cool, though, to have that, just to have that right here on the property before we put the 8-foot game fence up. Yeah, that's around 5 acres. So that was expensive. But actually, some of it isn't specific game fence. Some of it is just high, like game fences. But actually, I've bought several rows of game fence, and I've got it around my medicinal herb garden, and I have it blocking off the compound down where we live. So there's about, I don't know, the main pasture is probably, I don't know, 3 acres, 3.5 acres or something. And then there's this cross fence that's an 8-foot game fence, literally called a game fence. And it's to keep deer out and everything, and it does, you know. And so here's the thing. Okay, it's a 330-foot roll, 8 foot tall. You want help. You don't want it to be too old people. I mean, it was so heavy. And of course, the way we had to unroll it, we had to go uphill. And I mean, we're talking, you know, 300 feet, right? And we had to unroll this thing. And we learned later on to just unroll it on the ground and cut pieces and just, you know, piece it together. But we didn't then. And here we were, just the two of us, you know, and we're rolling this thing from one end of the side of the pasture to the other, you know, 300 feet. And so he's using we have a small truck. He's using it to keep it up. We're trying to tie it to the fence with bungee cords as we go, as we unroll. So you can imagine, I mean, the roll is super heavy, right? And we're trying to unroll it uphill through pasture. So at one point, about halfway, it falls on me, rolls me up in it, and I'm sort of like leaning in a half of a roll. So, you know, 150 foot is left probably in this roll, and or so or more, I don't know. And I'm rolled up in it. My husband's just like, oh my God. So he's trying to pick me and the roll up. And anyway, like I said, it's not that we're in denial over our advancing age. It's just that we don't see it, I guess. And we just think that we can do things that we're probably, even though we did it, I mean, and we did, you know, we did. It wasn't the smartest thing to do, and we should have asked for help, you know, but we didn't. So, and there I was, wound up in a roll of 8-foot game fencing. It was the strangest thing, one of the strangest things, because strange things happen all the time to me. But It was one of the stranger things that I've experienced in my life. So I don't know. Anyhow, that's enough for today. Let's get started. We'll count 13 and see what we have for today. Well, I drew the Knight of Pentacles, so I'll draw another card, of course. Pentacles, of course, is the earth element. And so when we think the expression down to earth, you know, that's what your court cards really are. When you're, irrespective of which ones they are, it's the earthy aspect of self, basically. In this case, knights are typically passionate. They're on a quest. You know, he's looking out into the future. So he's got his legacy, his wealth right there in his hands. So he's planning for the future, either for himself. Typically, though, a knight is about other people. So it's not simply just about his family, although that's certainly part of his quest towards something better in life. But let's draw another card and see what he has to interact with. Either this is the beginning of something, or this is where he is on his journey. Maybe we're about to embark on something new, you know, career-wise, or maybe something, you know, we're going to maybe move to a new home, or because there's some directionality to this. He's looking toward the future. When they look toward the right, you can look at that, you can interpret that as being looking toward the future. He's not really in battle. He's just sitting there. His visor is not down, so he's not in battle. He's just basically looking out over the expanse and maybe trying to determine where his next move belongs, maybe what direction to go next. And so maybe you might be experiencing that today, or maybe you have been for a while or something, and you just need to make a decision and gather all the facts and decide where next to go on your quest, basically. Let's do another card. Well, we have the moon. So there's some unknown. There's some mystery about the moon. We see the lobster coming up out of the water. That's rebirth. We see the dogs barking at the moon. You can look at that as light and dark, shadow side of self versus spirit, maybe. You see the quintessential two pillars in the background, though. And you see the pathway, which could be the pathway to new challenges. It's not blue, so I don't think it's like a small stream coming down and filling that pond. So it really does look like a pathway to renewal. But you've got the moon, and that's about mystery. And you have the 18th card of the major arcana, so it aligns well. It's a 9 energy, so it's going to align well with today's energy of 9. The 18th, again, is the 18th, so we're going to align well with that, obviously. So there's a sense of completion here, that perhaps a decision has been made of where you're going to go and where your rebirth is going to take you and all of that. But basically, if it's not something like that, then whatever this is about, and we're going to need to pull another card, the other aspect of the moon is about illusion and deception. It could be voluntary change. It could be cycles. It could be, you know, as above, so below. Seeing what's hidden. The moon veils things, okay? And so when we see the moon, we want to know what's hidden. When we think moon, we think emotions. And what do we do with our emotions? Either we're wearing them on our sleeves or we're hiding them. So there could be something about his quest that's emotion-based. Maybe some hidden motive is propelling him onward. But now I want to see what the next card has to say. Sometimes, you know, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, But I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but sometimes I just get to the point where I'm so tired of the lies that I hear, the deception that's around me, um, that I just want to, you know, go off, walk away from all of it. Like you just have to get out and away. And even if only to preserve your state of mind, take a day and go off by yourself, or take a walk by yourself, or just spend time away from the noise and the chaos that surrounds you. Uh, if such a thing does, which for most of us, I'm pretty sure it does. Um, Whenever I see the knights, especially the pentacles, it's like they're in their own head, and they're not thinking solely about themselves. They're thinking about the greater good of people. But at the same time, if you don't take care of self, how can you do that? How can you really be there for other people and be someone else's champion if you're a mess inside? And so, the moon, uh, when you see the dogs barking at the moon, it's almost like, you want to just walk away from that, and you want to get a different perspective. And at this point, it kind of feels like that's what's going on here. So maybe we've been experiencing some of that. Maybe this last weekend, we had the shooting at the mosques in New Zealand. And I love their, I don't, is she a prime minister? Jacinda, I don't know her last name. Um, what an amazing woman. What an amazing leader. I mean, I don't know the woman. I'm not there. uh, I have a daughter-in-law who's from New Zealand. And everybody that I have known that has traveled there, gone on vacation there, and I've actually known quite a few people that are either from there or have been there. And whenever someone comes back from vacation, they not only talk about how beautiful it is there, but the people. They said that the people are welcoming as they would travel around, to the smaller areas and stuff. And people were just inviting and welcoming and loving, and just the most amazing people. And it's a place they would want to go back to again and again, simply because they had the very best experience they had ever had on any vacation ever. And these were people that, had a lot of money, and they traveled abroad, and they could pretty much go wherever they wanted to. And so they'd seen the world, and they'd had the fabulous vacation experiences. And for them, New Zealand was the most special place they had ever been. And so to see this happen, I feel, obviously, because of my daughter-in-law, I feel a sense of family toward them all. I can't help but do that anyway, but particularly because of that connection. This was, my daughter-in-law was originally born, I guess, in England. But her family settled. Her father is New Zealand, and it's from New Zealand, and so they settled there. And she grew up there. Um, I don't know if she knows anyone. I don't know. She may not. Um, but for this to happen, I mean, it just reminds me of, there's just too much, and you just have to stop, and you have to maybe go outside and get on your horse and, you know, just get away from it. When the president of this country is cited as a reason to do this to these people, to kill people, The shame is so great, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you. Saying I'm sorry isn't even going to make it, is it? And now he's whining. Oh, the media's blaming me. Oh, honey, the whole world's blaming you. Get used to it. Knock it off. Be a different man. Possible. Well, there he is. Four of Cups. He's got his back up against the tree. He's looking very sullen. Look at his face. He can't even see. He's got a gift being handed to him, you know, the gift of power, the gift of, well, anyway, we won't go there. But the the fours are about respite in a way. You know, the Four of Swords shows a knight who's laying down. You can see the swords coming down on him. He's giving his mind a rest, basically. Here, we're giving emotions a rest. But this guy is somewhat, he's kind of having, it always feels to me like he's having a pity party. He's got the three cups out in front of him. He can't see that, right? You've got another cup being handed to you from the clouds. And so some mysterious, gift is being given to you, and you can't even see it because his back up is against the tree. It kind of reminds me of the saying back up against the wall in a way. He's got his back up against the tree. He can't see anything. He's not paying attention to what he already has. And he can't see the gift that's being given to him. Instead, he's in his own little place. Well, we're not going to draw a fourth card, but he's in his own little place in his mind, in his emotions. And he can't see what's in front of him. So you have to wonder, I have to think, and I'm going to pull a rune here. But with the moon card here, if you look at this in terms of progression, what happens first? You could say that there's just some deception, all right? And it's affected him greatly. So he's taking a time out from all the emotions that he's feeling, trying to come to grips with whatever illusion and deception that has gotten him, right? And that he's having to cope with. And it's just too much. And so he gets on the horse and he goes. Maybe something about this has to do with his legacy. Maybe he's been on the wrong track. And now he has to sit and think about it. Maybe he trusted somebody that he shouldn't have. And now he's almost, it's not that he's bereft, mind you, it's just that he is, things come up on the computer. I don't even know. I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's not that he's necessarily, completely bereft, but that he's so focused on his own thing that he just can't see what's in front of him. He's really, really caught up. I didn't get all the stain out of my fingernails. I stained the wand. I discovered that there's a tree that started growing years ago. We didn't plant it. I think a bird did. And turns out it's a mountain ash, which is the same thing as a rowan. Well, anyhow, so I went out there and I had my husband cut me a branch. I'm going to do some runes with it. And I also wanted to do a wand. And so I did my wand, and I like it because it's not completely straight. It kind of bends a little bit at the end where I hold it. And so I was sanding on it and doing anyway. I found some dark stain. This particular wood, I didn't leave I didn't leave the bark on it or anything, and so it's quite light. And so I wanted a darker wand, and so it's hanging right now. It's drying, so I can't show you. But I did some stuff with the Dremel on it, and to do some design work and all of it. I don't think I'm finished with it, but I just wanted to stain it a little bit and see what it would look like. And so far, it's looking pretty good. But I didn't get it all out of my fingernails. It's all around my fingernails, all this stain. Anyhow, so I'll try to make that look better next time anyway. Maybe take some bleach to it or something if I can't. Just a light bleach solution to it, because I couldn't get everything off my hand yesterday. I tried to be careful. I didn't use gloves. And that's what I should have done, but I didn't. So anyway, I pulled Othala. Now, Othala is the 24th rune of the Elder Futhark. It's a 6 energy, so that's higher self. And what this has to do with is our legacy and our ancestry, our Akashic record. You can see Gebo at the bottom. You can see Ingwas in the center. If you draw it in its diamond type of a shape. Otherwise, it's known as, it can be drawn as 2 X's on top of one another. Kind of looks like a DNA structure. But basically, when you look at Othala, you're looking at our legacy and our ancestry. Dagaz, the 23rd rune, sometimes gets substituted for the last one. They switch them around sometimes. I did that for a little while to see how that felt, and it didn't feel right. It's almost like Dagaz is the enlightenment before the awareness of Othala. This is who we are. This is the unity consciousness rune of the Elder Futhark, basically. We've realized after our journey that we really are source energy and form, and that we are part of the oneness of all that is, that we are all that is, an aspect of that. And then with Othala, it brings it all together into that truth, into that oneness, into that reality, that unity. So whatever is here, and because of the Knight of Pentacles, I still want to take, even though with the 4, he's clearly upset about something. He's lost in emotions. He's just, it's too much, and he just has to take a time out from it all, from whatever illusion and deception is at work here. And so he's going to go out, though, and he's going to find something new. And it has to do, though, with wealth and legacy and security, okay? And what I'm thinking is that given that he's a knight, he's for the kingdom. So it isn't simply about himself. It's not simply about his family, although it can be. It's part of it, certainly, because he's part of all that. But basically, when you see Othala, you're talking about something bigger, larger group of people. So this, whatever he's doing here, is a response to whatever is happening in the moon. So a decision has to be made, and a new direction has to be, we have to go in a new direction. So whereas this might be the individual who's stopping it, and it's not the knight at all, who's the true impact of the moon. So if we want to actually switch this back, it could be that these two are working in concert with one another. Because this is disturbance. It's change. But it's change that's coming from a hidden place. and emotions get to be too much, and now we're going to go out and we're going to do something on behalf of society, on behalf of unity consciousness. Because here's the other thing that happened, and I wanted to talk about this. I hesitated bringing up the shootings, the murder of these people, people that are part of our human family, our brothers and our sisters, children, babies, toddlers, grandparents, students. Lots of people died. What is it, the death toll up to 51 now? I don't even know how many more have been wounded. But here's what I saw. As everybody's blaming Donald, because if you look at, well, and now his spokesperson, that Kellyanne woman, she wants everyone to read his manifesto. Read the guy's manifesto. It basically says, you know, he's aligning himself with the white nationalist belief system of Donald Trump. Okay, that's what he said. He cited some other people, some Candace woman, I don't know who that is, never heard of her. Apparently she's well known, though, in conservative circles. And he, I guess, I don't know this, I'm assuming, and he cited her as inspiration, I guess, for all of this. I don't know, big, long manifesto. And I guess you're supposed to read it so it'll prove that it's that Donald's not the reason. You know, too many people are doing things and claiming him as the reason for it not to be true. What, you think they're going to lie about what they're doing? They're caught up. This is their thing. They're committed to it. You know, they're not. This is serious stuff for these people when they go out and they mass murder people. It's not just something they want to go and do. They've been thinking about it. And they've been taking their direction from someone in this country. Now, you can have varying opinions about this, but what happened on Friday was so shocking that what you had was the most touching expressions of support for the families of these victims, for the victims themselves, for New Zealand as a country. I saw a Maori group come out. There was a video of that, and they went to the video I saw. They were out front of a mosque, I assume, and they were in the street, and the men were, I believe it was called the Haka dance. They were performing that, and there have been pictures released of older men, seniors, my age and older, that go and stand and want to protect them while they pray. This is what's happening. As more of the hate is spewed, the more we come together and stand against it. Whether it's mosque shootings or it's shootings at a temple, a Jewish temple, a synagogue, whether it's at a Christian church here in this country, we all come together when this happens. We stand up and speak out against this kind of senseless, racist violence. For them to pledge allegiance to the man in the Oval Office in this country is horrifying. To think that he comes out on Twitter and says the things that he does that stokes us and then stands back and say, who, me? Yesterday, a man by the name of Bill Kristol, who is a longtime conservative in this country, not somebody I would necessarily align with politically, really on any measure, but he's so concerned about, Donald and his antics that he asked several times on Twitter yesterday for the Republicans in the party to take a hard look, to read the tweets that came out yesterday and look at them. Don't avert your eyes, he said. Don't look away. Look at what he said. Let that sink in and see if you really, really want to support this man. I guess yesterday I've blocked him so I don't see them unless someone takes a screenshot. I don't see it anymore. I can't. But for somebody like this man to come out and say this to the other Republicans, to please look at what he did today. Don't look away from it. You're going to know it's not right. And then do the right thing here. Because evidently the Republicans in Congress aren't going to do the right thing. It's going to end up being the voters that have to do it if Mr. Mueller can't do something. And we don't know yet, do we? We need a new direction in our lives. Whether this is something that has to do with our country and now the world, or whether it's just something we're experiencing in our personal lives. We're in a year, it's a 3-year, it's a catalytic energy year. So what will manifest, from last year's year of illumination? Well, what we've learned is that we have an extraordinarily careless person in the White House who has no idea what he's doing and is never going to know. Even if he had people around him who could tell him, he doesn't listen. So anyone that could do that is likely already gone. And as Americans, we sit here, those of us who don't support him, who sit every day in horror at what we're seeing. It's like we have not been able to exhale. That movie, Waiting to Exhale, we're all waiting to exhale. When he's finally gone and this, you know what show is over. But right now, the entire world is at risk because people are responding to this man and they're committing terrible acts of violence, killing people, mass killings of people. And now a new circular has been sent out to the Republicans, the general population of them. Instead of discussing their party platform for the coming election, oh no, they're talking about all these supposed insane things Democrats are going to do, mob rule, and all this other crap. All lies. To keep people's fear and animosity and hatred ratcheted up. Can you believe that? And now 51 people, 51 more of our family are gone. Well, we need a new direction, and we need it to be in terms of unity consciousness. Now, I have a feeling that collectively the world is going to be so exhausted that this is going to come to a conclusion at some point. Not the way Donald would like, but it's going to come to a conclusion. I don't think that the world as a whole, if you liken it to the human body, the body can't take that much nonsense going on within it. Eventually, it dies, when things in the body don't work properly, when they don't work together. You know, each one of us is a living, breathing example of why things need to be in alignment, things need to be in cooperation. It's no different collectively. Unity consciousness has to be that way. It can't be, you know, pulling at the edges and trying to destroy it like these folks seem hell bent on doing. So, I don't know. I think the Knight of Pentacles today, as I said, I think that it's basically telling us that, we need a new direction. We need a new direction that's based on security. And whatever that looks like, there has to be a collective input to that. Here, where it's so interesting, our Second Amendment, and I'll butcher it. I don't have it in front of me. Maybe one day I'll just have it sitting here and I'll read it, what it says. But when we have what's called in there a well-regulated militia, what do you think well-regulated means? It doesn't mean that my next door neighbor can have war weapons. Only the reading of it today is that he can. To look at when that was first put in, the United States was a very different place. We needed perhaps more than just what was in, the military. Sometimes we needed folks in the countryside to help as well. And so whatever you did, and plus you needed weapons to protect yourself from, people that would try to hurt you, or you needed them to hunt. But what we didn't do was go hunting people. Not like that. Not like that happens now. And that's what you have now. You have people hunting people. They aren't going to shooting ranges and shooting targets of deer necessarily. Okay? So you have people hunting people now and killing them in mass amounts. And somehow or another, that's okay here. Even though whole lots of people don't think that it is, mind you. But the voice that does think it is so loud and threatening. See, if you take my guns away, I'm gonna hurt you. You'll pry my guns. You'll have to pry my guns out of my cold, dead hands. I'm a gun owner. My husband's a gun owner. We have them for protection. We don't hunt. Some of these guns were given to us as gifts, inheritance, and things like that. I think in the entire time we've been married, we bought a shotgun. We needed one around here because it's a farm, basically. My husband, shoots gophers in the ground and things like that. One time we had to shoot a weasel because it was killing our chickens. I think he used his pistol when he did that because we didn't have the shotgun at that point. So I have no problem with the idea of a Second Amendment. I have no problem with the idea of owning guns. No problem with it at all. It's just that when the assault weapons ban was done away with in the mid 2000s, what is it, 2004 or 5 or 6, whenever it was during George W.'s time. They let it lapse. Then all of a sudden, you've militarized the police forces around here. So you could argue that this has been growing all this time. So, but the guy that did it wasn't from here. He was from Australia. And he flew over there and he did this. What was he, 20 years old or something? To think that how we look at the how some in our country look at the Second Amendment is not influencing this stuff. It is. And it brings a shame like no other. Even if I'm not part of it, even if everyone I know isn't part of it, doesn't matter. Words matter, folks. And when you've got a guy in the Oval Office here that tweets all this crap all the time, it's almost like it's a call to arms for his supporters. We're in desperate times. And I'm so sorry. Anyhow, we need a new direction, and it needs to be toward unity consciousness. And that's what I think the heart of this reading is today. So, anyhow, thank you so much for coming by. If you're somebody that feels like nobody hears you and you believe the way I do, you can always come here. And you can pretty well guarantee I'm going to say something about all of it. This is the only thing I know to do to suggest perhaps we think about this differently. So anyhow, thanks again for coming by. Hopefully you'll come back tomorrow. I hope you do. If you've been here before, thank you so much for sticking with me on this. And hopefully tomorrow we'll have a better day. Although for some, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So be good to yourself. Be good to one another. We'll see you tomorrow, and blessed be.